Hi everyone and welcome back. We're joined today by physio from Plymouth Argyle, Dave Galley. So I've known Dave for a long time and I know he's going to have some very interesting tale to tell of his career within the world of sport. So Dave, thank you for joining.
Pleasure. Nice to see you again.
Likewise. So just starting from the very beginning, how did you get involved in doing physio in the first place?
Same old story as most physios of my age, I think. Playing football, it's all I ever wanted to do, and getting injured. Injured my knee, and I can remember as if it was yesterday, the surgeon coming round to the bottom of the bed, picking the notes up and just saying, "Oh, you're never going to play football again." Put the notes down and walked off. And if I could have got out of the bed, I would have killed him, but I couldn't, obviously. And that was the start. Went to physio to get recovered. Didn't have a clue at the time what I'd done, but basically I'd done my MCL, ACL, big chondral defect in the bone, and tore the meniscus as well. And in those days, they didn't repair them. So it was all physio and rehabilitation. So I saw the physio for a period of time, knew I couldn't play football again. And he just threw away comment. He said, "Well, why don't you do physio, become a physio?" And there we go. That was it. I was lucky enough I'd got my A-levels behind me and went straight into physio college.
Right. So what age were you then? Were you just finishing your A-levels?
Yeah, I got offered an apprenticeship at Port Vale at the time where I was playing, turned it down, which was unusual, to stay on at college and get my A-levels. So I was lucky enough that at the end of that stage, or just towards the end of that stage, I'd got the A-levels under the belt and got the qualifications to go straight into physio school. So I went to Wakefield. It was remedial gymnasts then, wasn't even physio, and qualified there. Went back to work in the health service at the Hayward Hospital next door to Port Vale's ground, and the old physio at the ground was a lovely old boy, Lol Hamlet. 3 weeks into starting my new job in the hospital, he dropped down dead with a heart attack, and the club approached me and said, "Well, will you come back and be the physio?" So I did 2 years then in the health service at the hospital and part-time with the club, which was a great footing for me and a great standing, because you get your health service sort of education and grounding, and still carried on with the football work. So I was really lucky, but not so lucky for old Lol, a lovely old boy.
So when you were doing your physio, was it something that you thought, I want to be working with a team? Was that always the idea?
It was the only thing in my head. I wanted to play football. That was it. There was nothing else in life apart from playing football. When I was told I couldn't play football and I decided I was going to do the physio thing, that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to be in football, and that was my life. There was nothing else around it. I was told at the time, as I think everybody was, that you must do at least 2 years in the health service just to get your basic gradings in and cover the different areas within the health service. And I just did 2 years and then went full-time in football. But I got no intention, without being rude to the health service, of staying in there or doing anything else. It was just, football was my life. Still is.
So, and that 2 years, was that something that you thought you should just do, or did you genuinely see the benefit of staying in the NHS?
If I'm totally honest, I didn't see the benefit of it, because I knew what I wanted to do and where I wanted to go. So I was just like one view, and that was it. That's where I'm going. I think you probably do get a good grounding in different areas, but I can honestly say in the last, however many it's been, 38, 39 years, I've never used those areas in anything else, because I'm in football, so I never use them. So for me personally, I don't think it was massively helpful, but I can understand for other physios that maybe don't know where they want to work, which area they want to go into when they've qualified. And I can understand that you cover the basic grades in different areas, and then find your little niche that you like working in and go down that line. There's so many postgraduate courses you can do now, but for me it was just football. That was it.
And then you mentioned it's quite a long time ago, this. So when you were actually looking at it, I'm only quoting you there. But for the kind of being anywhere near the volume of medical staff then, so it was quite a single-minded thing to look at. So what was your realistic objective? Like, where did you want to end up?
The best I could possibly be. I know it's a bit of a cliche saying that now because everybody's seems to have jumped on that wagon. But I just wanted to be the best that Dave Galley could be in that field. I was never massively academically gifted. Physically, I was good, no problems at all. And it was just something that if I couldn't play football, I wanted to be the best physio I could be. Didn't necessarily compare myself to other people. It was just I wanted to be the best that I could do every single day and help other players and understand what they were going through when they were injured, having been through it myself. And you're right. I remember when I went to Port Vale, it was part-time at start. We had an old treatment room with one little bed in it. There was an old ultrasound machine that I tested on the first day and it didn't work. It probably hadn't worked for years. And an infrared heat lamp in the corner that I don't really think worked. And that was it. The gym was the players' bar on a match day. There was a bench and a medicine ball. That was your gym equipment. So you had a really good grounding with the education as being a remedial gymnast. It was exercise-based as well as the theory side. So, you know, I was really, really lucky that we got the exercise-based stuff so we could use your body weight, you could use whatever equipment you could find, you could use the terraces and do exercise-based that way for your recovery and rehab. So I was very, very lucky in a lot of ways and still am. But you're right, it's one person and you were on your own. I know when I started, it was you were the physio, you were the kit man, you were the doctor, everything. And that was the same with England, by the way, as well. When I started with them, you were kit man, doctor, physio. You had to do the lot. Now there's God knows how many umpteen physios, soft tissue therapists, psychologists, doctors, 5 or 6 kit men. So it's changed massively over the years, for the better, much for the better.
So it is for the better. So, but in terms of actual enjoyment, though, from your perspective, I know that your personality is going to change and you're going to experience changes. But did you enjoy it any less then, though, or were you loving it?
I loved it. I loved it then. I've loved it in the sort of noughties, and I love it now. It's completely different, and you have to move along with the times. If you don't move with the times, you'll be lost, and you will be, as they say, a dinosaur now. And I know I'm quite old school in a lot of things I do, but I'm very, very open-minded into anything that's new, what we can afford realistically. I know speaking to you, and I get all your emails selling all these lovely devices that I know we can't go anywhere near. And I'll be honest now, I don't even look at half of them because I know it's something I can't worry about because I want it and I can't have it. So I'd rather worry about the things that I can affect or affect the things that you can affect. But you just learn to deal with what you've got at the time. You know, I'm going back to how lucky I've been. I've worked at the bottom end of the leagues. I've worked at the top end of the leagues. I've worked internationally. I'm now back into League One. But you use all of those experiences to draw together and try and help everybody that you can in the best way you can. I've got loads of contacts so that if we get a problem that I don't know exactly what to do, and I think that's a big thing for physios is knowing your own limitations and knowing what you know and what you don't know. If it's something you don't know, you've got to ask people. And I think a lot of, without being rude to the younger ones coming through now, they don't ask. They think they know everything and they think they can do everything under the sun. And I don't think anyone knows, apart from my wife, obviously, I don't think anybody knows everything. She does. That's a different story.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
But what do you think? Do you think that is bred from like a fear that everyone wants to work in football, everyone's trying to protect themselves? Do you think it comes from that in terms of what you've just said?
Yeah, I think part of it, but I think it's just a generational thing. You know, I think it's the way people are nowadays. You know, the young staff come into the game, they think the game owes them a living. Some of them, not all of them. This is very, very generalised saying this. But I think a lot of people come into the game and think the game owes them a living, and they think they should go straight into the top. Whereas years ago, and again, this sounds very old school, you had to get your basics in, and you had to do like old apprenticeship for players. Now with the EPPP, they don't do the apprenticeship skills. So they're there to play football and that's it. They don't learn the cleaning the boots, the cleaning the dressing rooms, all the old-fashioned things that give you the good values that really, really help you on the pitch and off the pitch with your teammates. And I think that gets lacking sometimes. And the same with the staff. There's that many more staff now in the game at the bigger clubs. I think some things can get sort of slipping through the net because there's that many people doing a job. I thought you were going to be doing that. I thought you were doing it. No, you've done that. I thought you were doing that. So it swings and roundabouts. It is definitely better for the players, but there's still, you still want that basic grounding of good morals, good habits. Even just keeping the place clean. You can go into, without bullying myself, you can go into my treatment room at any time, and I'd like to think it's always clean, tidy, immaculate, and a proper treatment room. Whereas you go into some of the ones now, and they've got fantastic facilities, and there's stuff here, there, and everywhere, and that sort of thing drives me mad. I think it's just standards and good basic habits. That's what I put it down to. I think it's just being a certain person that you've got to be.
So you'd gone in, you'd done your first job at Port Vale. What happened? How long were you there for?
I was there for 2 years. And then very luckily, a friend of mine, Derek Wright at Newcastle, was leaving Fulham to go to Newcastle. And I just got a phone call. He said, would you fancy coming down here? I went, yeah, definitely. And I went down, met the manager at the time, Ray Harford, who's sadly passed away since, lovely fella. And Terry Mancini was his assistant. Met them, said, yeah, great. When can you start? And that was it. I went into it full time.
Right. So how was that then? Like moving, so you moved down to London?
Moved down to London, which was an experience in itself in them days. And my sister had just bought a 3-bedroom semi-detached with a garden, front and back, garage, double glazing, central heating. And we went to London. We managed to buy a small, and I mean small, 1-bedroom apartment, no garden, no central heating, no double glazing, mould everywhere. It was freezing, one little gas fire, and it cost us 2.5 times the cost that my sister paid for her house. So it was about 5.5 years that we literally couldn't afford to go out. But I was doing the job that I wanted to do. With lucky, my wife got a job down there as well, so she was doing something that she enjoyed. And it was literally live to work, and that was it for the 5.5 years. But loved it, absolutely loved it. Really friendly club. I was lucky with the people again.
Yeah, I mean, that's an amazing part of the world, but maybe you didn't have the most luxurious experience of living down there.
Yeah, night out was to go for a walk, and once a month we'd save up and go and have a hot chocolate on a Sunday afternoon.
God, it sounds like current times now, that actually, doesn't it? That's pretty much what we're doing.
Yeah, minus the hot chocolate. I've just got a cup of tea now. That's it. That's my life.
Yeah, exactly. So, but what was Fulham like there then? So, what time of, when was this then? What era was this?
This would have been 84. So a long time ago. We had a chairman called Ernie Clay, who was as tight as a duck's backside, shall we say. You couldn't make any outgoing phone calls before 1 p.m. because it was cheaper after 1 p.m. If you left any room, you had to turn the light off. You had to go around after every training session or every game, pick the strappings up, roll them up, reuse them. Tie-ups had to be reused. So again, it's silly things like that, but it makes you into good habits. And you got a proper roasting if you didn't turn the light off and left a room, or you left something on the floor that was dirty. It was sort of army standards, but it was great. It was what I needed. It was good habits for me, and it showed on the players as well. We had a great bunch of lads. That was the old Division 2 We just missed out on promotion to Division 1, which is the Prem now. And because we missed out by 1 point, he then said, "That's it, I'm pulling all my money out, I'm going to sell all the players." And he did. So it was a bit of a shame, but it was a great club, really friendly club. And I can remember Friday lunchtimes, we were all having fish and chips, all the staff. I said, this is all the staff in the club. And there was probably 20 of us, the whole club that was, in the cottage, having fish and chips on a Friday lunchtime before a home game. It was lovely, really nice atmosphere.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, that's one of the most iconic stadiums, and they're redeveloping it at the moment, aren't they? So it's like, what was that like being, were you training at the ground then?
We were training everywhere. We always got changed at the ground and then went off from there. But we trained at a place called Osterley, which was I think it was the British Transport training ground, which was probably half an hour drive. We trained there. Then we trained in Richmond, at Parts in Mitcham. So it was wherever we could get a training ground. We hadn't got a training ground as such, which was normal in those days. They either trained at the ground or go elsewhere and train from there. So it was very, very different times then. Very different.
Yeah, no, sounds it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm glad I wasn't selling equipment then, but that's
We got very far, I can tell you that.
So after Fulham then, what made you move from there?
I was very lucky. Ray Harford went from Fulham to Luton Town, 1988 it was, and he asked me if I'd like to go with him. And obviously they were in League One, doing well, got a good side. So went to Luton with him, and we managed to win the League Cup that year, beat Arsenal in the final 3-2. And that was, again, fantastic, apart from it was the time when we had the plastic pitch, which was horrendous. And we had no away supporters because of the Millwall game at the time where the fans broke all the seats through on the pitch and there was all sorts of trouble. So there was no away support allowed. The chairman at the time just said, right, we're not having any trouble at all, so we won't have any away fans. So it was a plastic pitch, no away fans. So the atmosphere was a little bit like it is now, but you got one set of fans that were bullying for you and encouraging you. But if you went one down, they were right on your back, and it was like having a ground full of away fans. But we did well. We got a good side, and I think we won the League Cup 1988. We got to the final 1989. We got to the semi-final of the FA Cup in '88. Got beat by Wimbledon, who went on to beat Liverpool in the final. We got to the Mercantile Credit final, the Simod Cup final. So it was a good few years. It was success on the back of playing on a plastic pitch that was not the best, but good times. And again, there we trained every day on the plastic. And if we were playing away from home, we'd have like 1 day, maybe 2 days at the most, where we'd go somewhere and train on grass. So that had its own problems as well.
Yeah. I mean, other than the burns, what impact do you think that pitch had on injuries?
Acutely, I don't think it had a great deal, apart from you get the occasional turned ankle. But I can remember we had to fill a survey in every single week we were there all the time. And I think it's one of those things that if you'd have gone back 10 years later and looked at the players then, that's when you'd tell the difference. Because I can remember the pitch was, they dug it up one year or pulled it up to put a new one down. And it was literally 2 inches of a thick, dense black rubber on tarmac. And then this 1/2 inch pile of plastic grass filled with sand. And that was your pitch. And I remember one day they hoovered it and took 3 tons of sand off the pitch. And you couldn't tell the difference. It was horrendous. It was a very, very hard pitch. It was used from 10 a.m. till 10 p.m. every day. So we'd train on it in the morning, and then from sort of 1 o'clock till 10 at night, it was let out to people to hire for games, training sessions, everything. So the pitch was used every single day. So great revenue for the club, but not the best for the players. I say acutely, you'd get an occasional turned ankle, probably more than you would expect. Low back stiffness, we got a lot of. We didn't get an awful lot more knee injuries, which I think we would have expected. But as I say, I think if you'd have gone back in 10 years post the time we were there, I think you'd have seen a lot of degenerative changes in the joints, the spines. That's as well as obviously the burns. We signed a lad called Mick Kennedy, who again sadly passed away since, from Portsmouth, and he was a rough tumble central midfielder, and his game was tough tackling, little Irish fella. And I remember seeing him. He came into the treatment room after his first day training, and he just walked in with his legs apart, like John Wayne walking in, and his legs were just red raw. And he just looked at me and he said, "I think I've got to change the way I play." I think so. And he never hit the deck again since after that. But, no, it was not the best pitch in the world, let's say that.
Yeah.
It was worth a goal start at the time.
Yeah, no, exactly. So when you're doing these moves then, were you married at this point then? Or was it you doing it on your own or?
No, I've been really, really, really lucky. Same wife, same woman. She stuck with me from sixth form. We got together. And when I got the Fulham job, we were going out, but there was no sort of immediate plans to get married or anything. But I got the Fulham job and I said, "Look, we need to be together. And will you marry me?" Basically, I did it all romantic, obviously, sort of. And she's stayed with me ever since. So wherever I've been, she's either moved full time with me, or like now, obviously for family reasons, it's a bit more difficult. She comes down whenever she can, so we see each other as much as we can. So I'm really lucky. Got a good woman behind me. She's the best.
Very good. Is she in the room now? Is that why?
No, I'm saying this miles away from her. Can't believe it. Just in case she hears it, though.
Yeah. No, that's great. So then, from Luton, what was how long were you there for?
I was there from 88 to 93, 94. And then I got offered the chance to go to Sheff Wednesday with Trevor Francis, which would have been a great move. I got the chance of two at that point. So I was doing England under 21s then at the time as well. And I got the choice of going to Blackburn Rovers with Kenny, and Ray Harford was obviously his assistant, or to Sheff Wednesday with Trevor Francis. And Trevor allowed me to carry on doing the under 21s with England. And Kenny Dalglish, being Scottish, he said, "No, you can't do it." So I chose Sheffield Wednesday because I loved doing the international stuff as well. It was a massive honour and something that I really, really loved to do. It was hard work. We were just talking about that this afternoon, funny enough, one of the players. It's hard work because you're at work all the time with the club, and then when you get the international breaks, now you can get a bit of a breather. And in the summer you get a bit of a breather, but then it was every international break you were away working. In the summer you got a Toulon tournament or European Championships or qualifiers for the championships. So you were always at work, and I was always away. That's why I go back to the wife. She's been so understanding and a rock behind me, and I couldn't have done it without her there, to be fair. So big shout out for the wife.
How did you get the England job then?
Again, a phone call. I got very lucky. I got asked to do the under 18s first in 1992, which was obviously the class of 92, the United lads. And then 93, we won the European Championships at under 18 level, which I've just seen on Robbie Fowler's podcast. He's got another guest. I think it's Gary Neville, not sure. But he's put a photograph up on that today, so I've had a bit of stick over that. Did that, and then got asked to go up with the 23s, the 21s from the under 18s straight after, and just jumped at the chance. So it's just progressions again, being lucky in the first place, and then once the doors open, you've got to still do the work and do the job correctly, and hopefully get appreciated. And I was lucky enough to do that.
I remember seeing an article, you mentioned Liverpool and United, where was it United weren't happy about you being involved with the England setup? Is that true?
Yeah, very true. Yeah, it's all well documented. I've still got the letter from Mr. Ferguson, bless him. I've done the 21s for quite a number of years, and got asked to go with the seniors with Gary Lewin from Arsenal. And he'd gone full time. So obviously, jumped at the chance. Stuart Pearce was the manager of the under-21s, and he said, "Yeah, you've got to go do it, no problem at all." So the one thing I had to do was to come out of first team football. So I think I was at Wigan at the time, and Steve Bruce was going to Sunderland and asked me to go with him and explain the situation. I said, "No, I can't, because I really want to do this." And he was totally understanding. He was great. So I was lucky enough. I went back to Liverpool then to do the academy. With Rafa asked me to go back with Frankie Mack to change the academy setup, and that's where I met Andy Renshaw, who we were talking about earlier. Or took him back. Excuse me. So I went into academy football under 18, out of the first team environment, which was different for me, but enjoyable, to go with the England seniors. First game was August, was Holland away. So we get together, get over there. First couple of days, not a problem. Day 3, 4, I get a message from the manager and the chief exec there. "Can we just have a word for a minute?" I said, yeah, no problem. So we come sit down, and there was all the sort of big wigs there. I'm like, "Something's wrong here." They said, we've just had a message from Mr. Ferguson at Manchester United. He's not too happy with any Liverpool staff treating his players. But don't worry, we've got it covered. You know, we're more important than Man U in the nicest way. We'll cover it for you. So, okay, no problem. The next day, I got called back. "I'm sorry, but we're not going to be able to carry on after this one." So, yeah, okay. And to be fair, I totally agree with what Mr. Ferguson was saying, and David Gill, that what they were saying was there was nothing personal in it whatsoever, and it was nothing really about Liverpool as such, although it was Liverpool and Man U, which have always had a good relationship. It was more that they didn't want staff working for club and country, which I totally understood. At the time, it had always been that case, and I don't think there'd ever been a problem, but it was one of those things that it could always be a problem. You know, if something happened, it was an excuse waiting to be used, if you like. So I could totally understand that. And Gary had left Arsenal to go full-time with the FA, and the FA needed full-time staff. But for me, they needed full-time staff that understood football and had worked in football at the sort of top level, if you like. And when they started to go with the full-time staff, they weren't necessarily, in my humble opinion, they weren't necessarily the right staff at the time to go full-time for the players to understand. But yeah, Fergie, bless him, got me out of the England full squad. So I stayed with the academy for 12 months, and again had to have a massive decision. Do I stay with the academy, or do I go back into what I really know, understand and love? And that was the first team football. And I was lucky that Steve was at Sunderland still then, and he said, "Look, come up here." And I went back to first team football with Sunderland and carried on with the under-21s with Stuart Pearce. So I just stepped back into the under-21s from the seniors. But yeah, a bit of a shame. I would have loved to have carried on with that.
Yeah. So going back to Sheffield Wednesday then, so that was when they were in the Premier League and they had a decent team, is it, around that time?
Very good team, yeah, very, very good. Yeah, a lot of full internationals with them there. Chris Woods in goal, David Hurst, Andy Sinton, Chrissy Waddle, Des Walker. God knows, there was loads. Carlton Palmer. Yeah, we're a very, very good squad, and a good academy. A lot of the young lads coming through as well.
So were you seeing a change in the medical facilities at that point then? Was it starting to get better?
It was Sheffield Wednesday was the first club I fought to get a number 2 and get a second physio in, because at the time I was still the only one. And I fought to get another physio in with me. And I managed to get that. I got a fella called Nick Worth in, who was great, came in, helped me no end, and went on to forge his own career in the game and still doing really, really well. But that was the first time I'd had any sort of help on that side. And we managed then to get a masseur in as well, or a masseuse at the time, a lady called Maggie Kennett, who was a Dutch masseuse, and she was absolutely brilliant, absolutely brilliant. Still speak to her to this day. Lovely woman. Got on with the lads really, really well, understood the crack, understood the difference in the nicest way with men and women, what her role was, where she should be, where she shouldn't be. She didn't take any messing from the players at all. You know, she was the mother figure as well, but really, really good masseuse, and a great addition to the team. Everybody loved her for what she was.
Mm.
Yeah, that was the beginning of a medical team as such.
Mm. Yeah, Nick told me about getting the job. So Nick was one of the first people that I spoke to, but now I think he was, he loved getting that opportunity.
Yeah, no, he was good.
And so, yeah, from Sheffield Wednesday.
Liverpool. That was, had a phone call. Again, sadly, it was Mark that lost his job at the time. I had a phone call from Mark. Would I be interested? So, of course I would, yeah. And then Dr. Waller, who was the doctor at the time, got in touch. We spoke about it from there, and you know, it was a no-brainer for me. You know, I've always been, since the age of about 2, 3. Port Vale is my hometown club, but I've always been a Liverpool supporter. And it's difficult when you work for a club that you support. It's not a good environment, really, but you just have to switch off. And I know from the first day in there, I wasn't a supporter, I was a worker, and I worked for the club. Obviously, you're following them, but you can get too close. I've seen a lot of people in the past, and that's one thing that I like to do, is I like to learn from other people's mistakes as well as my own. And I know people that have gone into clubs that they love, and it just either turns sour, or they get the wrong impression, or they don't do the right job because they're a lover of the club. And I think it's very easy to go that way. So you do have to be very, very careful with that. But yeah, it was an opportunity that I couldn't turn down at all, and went there, loved it, had some great years.
Yeah, you mentioned Robbie Fowler, and I've read his autobiography, and your name's cropped up in a few autobiographies actually, but all
not all good things though. I read Robbie's myself.
Well, like, what's it like then? You're working with, again, some of the most well-known players, big characters. How is it for you, like, in terms of that integration? You're talking about the professionalism, but then you have got to build a rapport with them as well.
I think that at the end of the day, they're human beings. They are normal human beings that have got an extraordinary talent to play football, and that's the way I always look at them. And they are normal lads. They've got the same problems that we've got. Most of them, or the top players, everything is highlighted. So everything is in the media. They can't do anything without everybody in the world knowing. And I think when you're on the inside, as long as you can gain their trust, they are people, normal people that play football. And they've got a normal body. They've got the same muscles as me and you. They've got the same ligaments as me and you. They're a lot more elite, so you've got to be a bit more careful with how you're treating them. But as people, they are human beings that have got an extraordinary talent to play football. And I've always tried, and I hope I've succeeded, in treating people in very, very similar ways, whoever they are, whatever they are. And obviously you do have to treat some of the top stars. I don't say you treat them differently, but you've got to respect their position and the other things that they've got to do. But they're still a body, they're still a human body, you know, and they've got the same bits that me and you have got, no different.
And what was it like being at Liverpool then? Again, that they had the Spice Boy type era. So what was it like in the dressing room?
I was lucky. I think Mark had the Spice Boy era just before me, and Gerard Houllier had come in, and he was beginning to change that sort of era. I remember when I first joined, one of the first things I remember was seeing, and I hope they don't mind me saying this, I know they've said it themselves a million times, Robbie Fowler and Jamie Redknapp running out to training at 10:25 with a bacon butty still in the hand. And when you think nowadays what professional players do and behave, it was just a different world, and this wasn't that long ago. So yeah, Gerard Houllier came in and changed a hell of a lot of the routine, the way things were done, how they were done. And at the time, it was strange because it was so different, but it was very, very much the right thing to do. Very much. I don't think anybody fought it at all. I think they realised that it was going to be for the better. It was just that mentality and attitude of the players that needed changing, and they did it.
And like, because when you're pretty much the only medical member of the team in your early days, like, did you ever try and get involved with trying to change the mindsets of players, or was that just going to be an impossible task?
No, all the time. All the time. You've got to. Or I felt we've got to. I remember when I first went into the game, somebody told me that you've got to be to the players. You've got to be the mother, the father, their uncle, their auntie, the brother, the sister, everything. The best friend, their enemy. You've got to be the lot for them. So it's one of them. You know your players, know how each one ticks, know what they need to get lifted, what they need to bring them down a bit, and you try and do everything with every player, which is impossible. But that's your aim, and it is trying to get into the heads and be there for them. You've got to try and build trust on so many different levels with so many different people. It's really is. It's a difficult job. I've always loved the psychological side of physio, and I think we, probably the masseurs now, the soft tissue therapists, get more information than we do. But they would always talk in the physio room, and you'd get more out of them. You know, what's happening outside of the football club, what's happening in the private life, than you would just, normal Joe blogs. And they would open up, and you'd have to gain their trust by not letting that go any further. But you'd get them to feel that they could talk to you, they could trust in you, what they're saying to you, and how you can help them in any small way. And I think that's probably one of the biggest nice things that's happened to me. And it doesn't happen that often, because one thing you don't get in physio in football is thanked. You very rarely get thanked. But if somebody comes to you and says, "Oh, yeah, thanks for that. That was really helpful," or if you've done something that is a tiny little thing, and that was useful, thank you for that. That goes such a long way with me in particular. I like that. But psychologically, you've got to be there for them, and they are all, as I said before, they're human beings with an extraordinary talent.
Yeah. When you mentioned about Mark, so Mark is leaving Liverpool. You're very good friends with him. Like, obviously he's telling you about the job, so he's recommending that you should still go for it. But what is that community like with other physios at that level?
I think it's changing now because of the numbers of physios that there are. But I know then everybody in the football world, they still do, everybody knew everybody else. And I knew every physio in the Premier League. I knew every physio probably in the Championship as well. So you're all, I don't say friends, but you all know each other, and a lot of them are friends. You only meet them on a match day or any conferences that you go to. End of season, there was always a weekend where we get together, and it was a social as much as anything else. And that was, I gained more on the weekends away, socially, as much as what you're learning academically, because you're just talking to people, and you might say, without saying names, but you say problems that you're getting. Yeah, we've got that, we've had that, and I've had that. And you come away from that weekend, and you think, yeah, it's not just me. It's not just us that have got this problem. It is, more worldwide, and everybody has the same issues. So it was a close-knit community. And I say Mark was sadly losing his job, but still recommending me to go for it because he knew it was a good club. It was a change in manager. He knew his time was finished there, and it was a chance for somebody else. And I think the other thing, in a nice way, and it's very, very true, Mark knew that if I went into the job, I would have done exactly the same as Mark was doing, which I would. And everybody knows the problem that they were having. And I didn't change anything from what Mark was going to do. It was just a different person or a different voice for Mr. Houllier to say, yeah, okay. And I got a lot more time than Mark was given, which is wrong, but that's the football way. It's a real shame, but Mark knows that. I know that. And I think it was a comfort for him knowing that what he was going to do, the plan for he was going to do was spot on, and it was right. He'd done everything right up until that point, and the plan forward was right. And I just carried it on.
In terms of dealing with managers, have you ever had any ones that have been particularly difficult to deal with, or you've not had a great relationship with?
I tried to count up not so long ago how many managers I've worked with. And I think I got up to something about 47, which is a hell of a lot of football managers, including international ones. And they're all very, very different, all very, very similar, and all completely different individuals. And I don't think I've had any that I've not got on with. Some I've had a very short period with. I've been sacked 5 times in my career. Luckily, not for doing anything wrong, just the managers come into the club and came to me and said, I'm sorry, but I'm bringing my own physio in. And that's point blank, you're out. You feel as guilty as hell. You feel like you've done something wrong and you feel terrible. You feel like a little bit of dirt on the bottom of your shoe. But you've got to understand that is the football world. That's how it was at the time and still is to some degree. But that makes you stronger as well. That really does make you stronger. So obviously those managers you don't have time to build a relationship with to be good or bad. But the ones that I've worked with, I don't think I've had any that I've had a bad relationship with at all. Obviously there's times when you're going to tell them things that they don't want to know. Times when you're stopping them doing things that they want to do, but you're doing it for the right reasons, for the protection of the players. And one thing, again, I was told years ago, which I've always stood by, you're employed by the football club, not the manager. And it is true. I think it's coming full circle now. I think it went through a period when you weren't employed by the football club, you were employed by the manager, although the club employed you. But now it's coming back to that again. You're employed by the football club to look after their assets. The manager is one of their assets, but he is one cog in the whole workings. And as I say, I think at the moment I'm really, really lucky with Ryan here. He's a young up-and-coming manager, and he will go on to do great things. I've got no doubt whatsoever. But he's great because you can talk to him. He listens. Doesn't agree with everything you say by any means, and you have to justify everything you're saying to him. But he listens to you, and he gives me the free rein to say no. He's not right. He's not ready to play, or he needs to come off. And he's okay. That's your decision. If it's wrong, he'll slaughter me, and that's right. I'll take that on the chin. I've not been wrong yet, by the way, but that's different. But I think you've got to be strong with the managers, but you've got to justify your decisions, what you're doing, why you're doing it, what you're doing it for.
Yeah. And what is it that particularly would attract you to go into a job? Is it based on the club, the manager, the combination, or what?
I think this is the perfect one here, to be fair, to justify that. I think in the past I've been lucky that I've never been, touch wood, I've never been out of work. If I've lost my job through a manager coming in and another manager saying I'm bringing my own staff in, I've managed to get another club relatively quickly. But it's usually a feeling. And this one was the prime example. I'd just come back from Qatar because my parents were both ill, and sadly lost those not long after coming back. So it was the right decision to come back for me. And I got offered a couple of Premiership clubs, and I got offered this one. And I thought about it. I talked to my wife, and I said, "This one feels right. The staff feel right. The way they're talking feels right. The way the club seems to be running is right." And I think it just suited me at the time. And things change over years, obviously. But this one suited me, as in the players seemed the right age group. The staff were all saying the right things. The chairman, the owner, was definitely saying the right things, and as far as I'm aware, even to this day, is completely and utterly genuine with what he says, and runs a very, very good football club. And it's just a feeling. So it's a combination of all the things. Geographically, it was a nightmare because it was a long way from home, but that's never bothered me. You know, I've been lucky enough to go and work abroad, and absolutely loved that. Really, really enjoyed that. I went to Abu Dhabi with a team called Al Ain. We won the league over there, and that was probably one of the best experiences in my life. Just learning a different culture, learning with different staff, learning with different players. The cultural differences were unbelievable, and you had to adjust to them quickly, which was great. And it's made me now I feel a much better physio, much more understanding than I was, much more patient than I was, and appreciate that there are 1,000,001 different ways of getting the same thing, the end result. You know, there's not one way of doing it or two ways of doing it, not three ways of doing it. There's 1,000,000 ways of doing it. It's getting from A to B in the safest, quickest way possible, but safely. So I've been lucky in that front as well. But it's the whole, going back to the original question, it's the whole picture. You know, the feeling of the club, the players, the staff, the environment, a lot, and what the wife says.
Yeah. Well, so, and then your COVID officer down there. So how has that been? You were telling me briefly off camera that it wasn't ideal. So can you tell us about that?
To be honest, it's horrendous. It's been the shortest season ever and the longest season ever in a lot of ways. But it's just so difficult to deal with because there's guidelines set out by the EFL. I'm very, very lucky that I'm quite friendly with Richard Higgins, who's one of the EFL medical directors, and Baz he does Chef Wednesday, still same doctor that when I was there, and Baz, who's at Sheffield United. The two of them are the EFL doctors. So I've got a nice rapport with them, and any problems I have, I just go directly to them, and they've been a fantastic help. But it's been, I would say, 12 months. It's been this season of just things changing on a not even a weekly basis, sometimes a daily basis, and it's reactions to things, and everything is so slow. There's a government reaction, then a Premiership reaction, then an EFL reaction, and then a club reaction, and you've got to try and be proactive but reactive at the same time, and it is so difficult. And you've got guidelines that are set out that change week to week. You've got these guidelines that you've got football staff that say, well, they're not law, so we haven't got to do that. They're only guidelines. And I'm saying, yes, but the guidelines are from the law, from the government. That's the take on it. So you've got to try and do your physio side. And 90% of my time has been taken up with this COVID, which is horrendous. We've not got a club doctor at the moment, an official full-time one. We're looking for one for next season, which we've got lined up, but he can't start until next season. And the match day doctor can't really do it because he's not in through the week. So they got left to me and another chap in the club that does the stadium management of it, but all the football side is my side. So it's you not using the changing rooms, not having your dining room, not having a gym facility, chasing them up for the lateral flow testing twice a week, chasing them up then for the PCR if they need that. Anything with the families, you're checking up on that side of it. Then they'll start drifting 3 or 4 of them into the changing room. Lads, you can't use the changing rooms. Yeah, we're only in here a minute. And you're chasing them out from there. Your treatments, you've got to wear your PPE. You've got a 15-minute treatment window. Some you might need more than that. So you say, go away, come back later this afternoon and we'll do you again. The treatment room is now, we've got 1 bed in the treatment room and 2 beds in the corridor. I'm lucky I've got a sports therapist with us and an intern that's with us, sports therapist for 12 months. They're doing all the soft tissue stuff in a corridor with a door open either end to outside to get the airflow. So it's just all the little things that add up that are massively time consuming. You've got to read reports every ground you go to. Most of them have got a different format of how they want their presentation for turning up for a game. Getting the coach fogged every away game. We unlucky in one way that we can still only have one coach. You know, the rules or guidelines suggest you get two coaches if possible. We just can't afford it. You know, we've not got the revenue coming into the ground with no fans to afford two coaches. So that's probably our biggest risk factor during the week in the football environment, because we've stopped the food, we've stopped the gym, we've got a small. It's an indoor-outdoor. It's under the stand, which is an outdoor area really. That we've got a few weights set up and a bike, and we do little bits and pieces in there, but it's nowhere near adequate to get to the level to play football. So it's all these things on a daily basis to add to your workload, if you like. But it's hard with the EFL. It's not Richard and Baz's fault. They're only getting told from the government what to do. But these things change certainly on a weekly basis, and the club just say, "Well, you deal with that. You deal with that." Yeah, okay. But that's been very, very stressful throughout this season. It really has. But we're getting to the end of it now. Hopefully on Monday he'll come out with a roadmap, and we'll see a way out. I was very, very pleased 2 weeks ago. I think it was, we played Accrington Stanley. It was sort of end of Jan, and I'd got in my mind from what things were being said that at that point, if we could get past that point, we were going to finish the season. Up until that point, I think, as the EFL, we were right on the edge of being able to carry on playing or finish playing, and the season would be ended somehow. But I think finances run that again. You know, last year there was so much money lost revenue-wise from not playing football that they didn't want that to happen again. But you're balancing up revenue as against health and well-being of the players. And there should only be one winner there, but sadly we all know that that's not always the case.
And then what's it like when you actually do get to the game in an empty stadium?
Horrible, I'll be honest. You train all week, you go out on the training field and you're doing your training session. That's completely normal. As normal as it can be, no problem. You come to the game, match day, everything's the same. You build up, you're coming into the dressing rooms, the music's blaring, you're doing your warm up in there. You go out onto the pitch and it's dead. There's no one there. And you've got to try and get the players lifted. They've got to lift themselves. And it's like going out into just an empty stadium and you're playing a game that is your livelihood, or they're playing a game that is their livelihood. You know, there's 3 points at stake: promotion, relegation, finances for the players, looking after the families, and they're playing in an empty stadium. And it must be really, really difficult for the players mentally to get themselves up. You know, it's a game of football, yeah, but you've not got that pressure and comfort, if you like, of the fans. And the fans do make the game, whatever anybody says. They really do. And that's at our level. We've got a great fan base. But, you know, you go to the Premier League clubs, where you know 50, 60, 70,000 people there every week, and then suddenly they're playing with no one. It must be so much difficult. It really is difficult for them. And I think that's one of the reasons why you've seen the results we've had this season. You know, there's some really, really crazy results coming out. And obviously less time in between games, less recovery, didn't have a full pre-season. The injury rates have gone massively up. And I'm not surprised at that at all. It's difficult without the fans, really is.
Yeah, no, well, as you say, hopefully that can be rectified before the end of the season, but at least if not then, the next.
Yeah. I hope they start bringing that in before the end of the season, if it's safe to do so. You know, that's the bottom line. It's got to be safe for them to do that. But I think they will.
Yeah. Good. And before we finish then, something that I've asked other people that have been on, are there any particular people that you've come across, whether it's in the medical profession or just in general life, not your wife for this one, but who've been inspirational for you?
Oof. It's going to sound corny, but there's probably too many to mention. I think everybody in a lot of different ways. I can get inspiration from the kit man, from the cleaners, to the best managers I've worked with, to famous people that come in, people in the crowd. I think there's different forms of inspiration. Every other physio I meet, I get inspired by, or most of them. And I think you can always learn something from everybody, whatever walk of life they are. And I always try and look to get little bits from everyone. And hopefully I still do that now, the same as I did the first day I was qualified as a physio. I think that's what keeps you going, and probably has kept me in the game this long, having the ability to change. And I am inspired by everyone, inspired by players in different ways. And it's everyone. I wouldn't like to pick out one person. It'd be easy to say Kenny Dalglish, because obviously he's an idol, he's up there. But it's not the case. Robbie Fowler, Stevie G, they are particularly good individuals, but they've not inspired me any more than the kit men somewhere, or a soft tissue therapist that we've got. It's the person for me that's the important thing. I think everybody can learn something from everyone else.
Yeah, no, it's good.
Funny that, but it's true.
No, it's good. Well, it's great to see your enthusiasm still for working in the game, and even, being so many 100 miles away from home. But yeah, I hope you manage to rectify as much, or manage the COVID situation as best you can. And thank you very much for joining. It's been great talking to you.
No problem. It's a pleasure, Andy. Hopefully see you soon.
Good man. Cheers, Dave. Thanks.
Yeah. Cheers. Bye-bye.